Welcome to the Great Acceleration. That's really what we're in now. So we have a new president now in America. And you have Elon, you have Jeff Bezos, you have all these guys in the room there. And they are very happy about this because they get to now build all their tech stuff. And it is what it is. The question is, are you prepared yourself? And are you prepared for your kids to handle this great acceleration? So let's dive into this. I've been talking about this for years. And for those of you who watch my content and are, into this kind of thing, I know you're going to understand a lot of this, but I want to take it to a whole new level. So I've been talking about AI, robotics, all these changes that are coming online. And a lot of my foundation in this was years and years ago. In 2016, I was in the mastermind with Ty Lopez. And every month he would give us a book that we had to read, and then we'd come back to the next event and we would discuss it. The first book they ever gave us was Bold by Peter Diamandis. And it's a really good book. You should get it and you should read it so you can understand what's going on. It's a little bit outdated now, but a lot of the principles remain true. And I'm going to share the main, the gist of it. So in Bold, Peter Diamandis explains, he calls them like the 6 Ds of disruption. You have like, I don't even remember all of them, but there's like digitization, there's democratization, there's demonetization, all this. I'll give you a quick example. You had Kodak was like the behemoth, like the ultimate company in terms of photos back in the 80s, 90s, etc. And then you had Instagram, who came in and completely wiped them off the map. Literally, Kodak is out of business. And Instagram, by the time it went public, I may be wrong here, but there was something like 13 employees only. And Kodak had thousands and thousands, right? And you had Instagram with, let's say, 13 people. When they got acquired by Facebook or Meta, whatever the entity was that acquired them, think about that. What does this represent? The digitization. This is disruption right in front of you. You have a small working group of people that are way more agile than a big old company, these old dinosaur companies like Kodak. Because instead of them having to create physical cameras and print physical pictures, those old school Polaroid pictures, now you have everything just on the cloud. That is an example of this trend that's happening. So there's an exponential curve that's been happening with technology since, I don't know when it started exactly, but it was in the 1940s through the 1960s. It was when they started to actually create computers. So before this, you didn't have computers. Now you have computers and computing power doubling every 18 months and getting cheaper every 18 months. So this is called Moore's Law, Moores law. You can look it up on Google just to understand it. But that's essentially what it's saying is every 18 months, computing power is doubling while it's getting cheaper. That's why I'm on a little iPhone right now, and I don't need a fancy studio. Where way back in the day, for me to make a video and get it out to everybody, I'd have to spend, $100,000 to get into a TV network. And I would have to, we'd have to use these big old cameras where now I can literally go on my phone that I pay however much it was, $800 for my iPhone. And then I can film, and now I can go to YouTube and basically for free upload this to YouTube and then disseminate this through, I use Facebook and other channels to disseminate this. Isn't that amazing? So that's where Peter Diamandis is talking about, okay, you have digitization, which means I can now do this all digitally from my phone. But then you have the demonetization too. It's like why I can go on Facebook and have a free account on Facebook. So there's a lot of really cool aspects of this. Like I've met some of my best friends through making these videos and putting this stuff on my social media. It's great. But now you have this trend happening, okay? And this has been going on for a long time. So now we're at the point where computers are getting scary powerful. You have now quantum computing it's been around for a while, but now it's starting to hit the mainstream. And quantum computing is where now that computing power can get even stronger. And it can do these insane super long calculations that would take a normal computer, let's say years to do, and it can do it in like 2 seconds. What this means though, to you and to me, is that this technology we have is growing at a rate that is, it's really unstoppable. I mean, imagine you wanted to slow down computer development. You're not gonna. What are you gonna do? Go try and talk to the CEO, right? You're gonna write him a letter. They ain't gonna stop. And now today, which is really symbolic of this, is you have Trump saying, "Hey, this is going to be a golden age for America," and you got Elon and Bezos and Zuckerberg and whatever the Google guys' names. They're in the room there. I don't know if Jensen Huang was there, but you have Nvidia now that is. I don't even know what you call the thing, but essentially what you can use OpenAI for, which is this large language model. And now people, you can get your little account on ChatGPT and use it for free, which is cool. I mean, I don't know what they're doing with the data. OpenAI's got its whole can of worms with it too. If you look at there's a whistleblower for it recently who unalived himself, as they say. So there's a lot of the dark side to this, which I'll get into as well. But of course, by the end of this video, I'm going to give you what you can do to get yourself ready for it and to get your family ready for it as well, so we can really thrive and we can actually make sure it's a golden age instead of it just being this political buzzword that Trump and these guys are saying. So you got this trend that's happening, right? This exponential curve, and where does it end? Well, that's up for a debate. That's like a philosophical conversation to have. However, you have this guy, Ray Kurzweil. He used to be the head of engineering for Google, and he's one of these hardcore futurists. And he has, I think he coined the term the singularity. But there's this concept of a singularity. A lot of people say it's by by 2045 is a lot of the expert predictions. Some people say it's going to happen sooner, where essentially all of these computers, and you have what's called the Internet of Things, and you have the cloud, and you have all this technology. It's basically all going to hit a point of merging to where the computer will be so powerful, it will be smarter than humans, and it will also be interconnected. And that can either be something that's super cool because we could create this benevolent AI that's going to help humans flourish. Here's my vision for it, okay? This is what could happen, but I don't trust Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk to build it. But what they're working on, and they've all teamed up on this, and they call them superclusters, is these super powerful AI facilities that are essentially like the powerhouse to be able to handle this, because it requires a ton of energy to be able to do this. It requires the state of the art computer technology to be able to do this. And here's a vision of what I would want it to look like. Okay. Right now, I can go on Amazon and I can press one click buy. Like I just bought a bunch of books yesterday and they're already showing up at my house today, even though it's where I live, -8 degrees Fahrenheit right now. And even though it's Martin Luther King Day, it's still it's a distribution system that makes sure I can get what I want. But I know the majority of the people in the world aren't necessarily able to get what they want. Think of how many people still go to bed hungry tonight, right? It's freaking cold outside, and I bet there's people outside within 6 miles of me that are on the street corner begging. And, they need a warm place to sleep tonight. So imagine you could use the AI for that, where we could have some sort of, super abundant future where we can make sure everyone is at least getting their basic needs met. Like they can at least have clean water, and they can at least have, baseline nutritious food. And let's say we could 3D print buildings so people could at least have a shelter so they don't die from freezing. That would be a really cool use of the technology. Now, who's going to fund that? How that's all going to work exactly? That's up for debate. But that's a vision of how this could unlock a whole new level of society. And I would love to see that. And I work every day and I make these videos and I build community. I build my business on this. So that way we can make sure that kind of thing happens over the next 2 to 20 years, let's say, okay? Now, here's the alternate side of this, is you have right now in China something called a social credit system. And everyone is assigned a score, and it fluctuates based on your behavior as a human. Just like you have a credit score if you're here in America, or, I'm sure they have this in Europe and Canada too. It's like you have a score based on how good you're going to be with money. And so if you're good and you pay your bills on time, and you never defaulted on your credit cards or whatever, you get a high score, right? You have a 700 score, whatever the max is. And let's say you are really notoriously bad and you don't pay your bills, whatever. You're going to have your credit score is going to get shot. It's going to be hard for you to get a home loan. It's going to be hard for you to get a car loan or open up new credit cards or get a higher credit limit, right? So in China, they literally have this for you being a good citizen, okay? Here's the risk of that. If you don't like the political party in power, you and you try and post that on WeChat or whatever their, social media services, guess what score's going down? Your freaking score, right? Your social credit score. If you jaywalk in China, you get docked on your social credit score. If you don't wear a mask or get a certain, thing injected into you, your score goes down. So how good are you as a citizen? But what's that based on? Some arbitrary moral code from the Chinese Communist Party? So here's the risk. That's coming for America. You have right now all these things like the Trump administration is talking about building a wall. Part of that wall, though, is you have a company called Anduril, founded by a guy named Palmer Luckey, who has drone surveillance technology that he wants to put in. In theory, drone technology can be really cool for this. Imagine it's actually built well, and those drones can actually spot if it's like, ooh, people coming across the border that are literally trafficking kids. Yeah, we should totally intervene, right? Or you could use drones. Let's say they could use drones like those fires in LA, right? I feel bad for those people. What if they could have had drones that could like pick up mass amounts of, seawater? I don't know if you could use salt water for this. Theoretically, you could, but whatever. I'm not sure. But now imagine you could get water and you could use drones to help fight those fires. So there's a lot of really cool potential. And then there's also a super risk, because what if we created a surveillance state? And now for you to leave your home or you to get in your Tesla, right? But, you were talking smack about Elon Musk online and you got your blue check mark removed. And now they say, sorry, your Tesla, you only have this many credits today and you can only go to the grocery store. You can't go visit your friend who's, 40 miles away. You can only go 6 miles today because you have been a bad person, right? That is the risk of this stuff. And it's a very real risk. I'm not here to be some doom and gloom, guy, but I'm just saying you got to be aware that this is what's going on. And there's legislation in place to essentially push this more surveillance state on us. Now, what can you do about this as one individual? Not much. But as a group, what can we do? Okay. So look at how Elon was able to use the money he built from his businesses and his networks to be able to, over time, right? So he did what? Zip2, then he went on to PayPal, then he went on to Tesla, SpaceX, all that. At a certain point, though, he built up enough reputation, he had enough money, he had enough influence that he literally bought freaking Twitter and then converted it to X. If you know the bigger picture of X, X is designed to be the one-stop place you go, where X is going to be connected to payments. And so we could be like, hey, I want to, whatever, like a Facebook marketplace, right? And you have something cool and I want to pay you on it. I could just pay you through X. Theoretically, that sounds awesome. But what if Elon is actually like secretly behind the scenes just wanting to control everyone? And then, we get to the point where you can't even speak out against that. And now your payments are tied into X, right? And you posted one too many memes talking smack about whatever, or you say, hey, I don't think we should go to Mars. And what if that docks your score? So this is the situation we find ourselves in. Now, let's come back to the present. Okay. For too long, we have stuck our head in the sands collectively. We've said, okay, those are the guys in Washington, D.C. They're going to be these corrupt politicians, whatever. It's in Washington, D.C. I live halfway across the country. It doesn't affect me. Or, oh, that's just Elon. He's just trying to build these robots, whatever. That's just Zuckerberg censoring free speech on Facebook, whatever, not a big deal, right? For too long, we've said, oh, that's someone else's problem. We're hitting the point. This acceleration curve in the singularity also implies this. Okay, pay attention. The singularity also implies that all of these collective problems are all going to manifest in front of us. We're interconnected. Here's a little taste of it. Here's how you know what I'm saying is true. During the most recent pandemic that we had, wasn't there a lot of mandates put in place and a lot of social pressure and a lot of media engineering that made you basically feel guilty if you didn't want to take that jab, which we're now seeing has a lot of negative effects? Okay? That's an example of where in the past you might be like, whatever, just another bird flu, just swine flu, whatever. I'm just going to, stay healthy. It's not my problem. But we saw very quickly how one pandemic and the coordination of everything essentially shut down the world. And I know everyone who's watching this video, on some level, either you or someone around you was affected by it. And likely it probably wasn't necessarily that someone got sick. It was more like, oh shit, I lost my job. Or, oh, I have 3 friends who all ran restaurants and now they literally had to close their doors. Guess who didn't have to close their doors? Walmart and Costco, but the mom and pop shop had to. And so I'm not going to get into the whole, discussion about, was it a legit pandemic or whatever, what the reply to that was. I'm more saying, this is coming for each of us, this change. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we adapt really well to it. And then we can actually really usher in this golden age where it could be done right. And we could have, some sort of way of utilizing, let's say there is some more of a surveillance state and they got digital ID and whatever, right? I don't necessarily want that, but okay. One more pretty extreme point I do have to share. There's this guy named Sean Ryan. He's like an ex-Navy SEAL. He runs a pretty interesting podcast. I can't get a full read on him. I don't know the guy, but he is having more and more people on his show that's talking about how there are a lot of people in America who are, let's say, the enemies of America, and they're in here. And he has a pretty compelling argument that he thinks those October 7th style attacks that happened in Israel, he thinks are likely to happen here in America as well over the next year, basically. Now, do I know if that's going to happen? I'm not sure. But don't you think that would be a pretty serious event where it would then usher in people like openly saying like, yes, please, you can scan me. Like, yes, please, like we want more surveillance. Yes, please, we want drones in every downtown place to monitor people, right? And so it's like, it's pretty gnarly when you look at that. Now, here's how I make sense of this. I work my ass off every day to build community of the people who are intentional about being the future leaders of the world. Some of you, like shout out to a lot of the guys here locally that are actively working at getting into politics. And we're working on building a local headquarters so we can have events every single Saturday. And we can have huge events and we can bring the people together who are the innovators and the entrepreneurs so we can all work together to make sure we go on a really good path forward. And I have friends all around the world from all different countries. And here in America, where we can still homeschool, a lot of us homeschool. A lot of us are raising our kids very intentionally, so our kids are super smart. So by the time they're old enough and they're 16, 18, 25, whatever, they're so dang smart. They see this coming and they can work with the technology to make sure we get the outcomes we want. But there's also a lot of people who, their version, like people in our community, their version of success and being a really great leader is they just want to be a better husband or a better wife. And they want to you can make sure their kids are well educated, or they just want to take responsibility in their local community. That's fine. But whatever your fullest potential is, I genuinely want to help you hit that. Like, I know that sounds so dang cliche. And I know it sounds like a motivational Tony Robbins hype thing, but it's not. It's actually like I have learned over the years, I've got very good at seeing the potential in people and helping people to let go of that negative self-doubt, that kind of thing that's holding you back, and to have a roadmap by which you can build a bridge between your current self and that ideal future state. My only request, though, is when you're looking at what are your goals and the thing you want to hit, that you please factor in the fact that we are going on this trend. We're in the great acceleration. And you have these things like the Singularity and Ray Kurzweil and all these transhumanist people that are literally trying to build this AI superintelligence that's going to kind of be this oracle for society. And also, it gets real crazy when you look at the whole transhumanist movement. You have Ray Kurzweil. Again, he was the head of engineering for Google. He's like one of the most accurate predictors of what happens with technology. He was predicting like Google glasses before they decades before they came out. He was the first person to come up with that idea of like a digital keyboard, like the mouse on a computer. He saw all this stuff coming. He's a very brilliant guy. He is literally convinced that he's going to be able to save his consciousness onto I don't think it'd be a USB stick, but he essentially thinks you can map your brain and then make like an avatar on the cloud. I know this sounds insane, but this is what the super elite billionaires who want to live forever, this is what they're focused on, is how they can hack their body so that they can live for a long time, and how they can hack their mind into the cloud. I know it sounds crazy, but dude, did any of you see that interview? Lex Friedman, he's also got a pretty interesting podcast. He did a interview with Mark Zuckerberg in the Metaverse. Like in whatever they call it. I don't know if they call it Oculus or whatever, but it was the first ever interview done where you have a representation of Lex Friedman and then a representation of Mark Zuckerberg, and they're doing the interview. You should look it up. It's crazy. So imagine in 10 years what's going to be possible. Imagine in 50 years what's going to be possible. My issue with it is when you have people who care more about that and trying to live forever than look at, hey, what would actually be good for the collective here? Like, how do we make sure everyone on a base level levels up enough so where they don't have, so like they don't have to worry about survival, right? I care about that. Elon is like, dude, we got to get to Mars because we got to expand. Cool, but what about Earth? And it's so easy to see someone like an Elon or a Mark Zuckerberg and go, yeah, but they're just the billionaire guys. They're special. I could never get to that level. And maybe you won't get to that level. But I know a lot of you guys also deep down do want to get to a really big level. Like you do want to have that level of influence. And so that I run mastermind groups and I'm part of masterminds where we talk about this stuff every single week and we push each other and we hold each other to a higher standard. That is the real great acceleration. So the great acceleration is happening externally in the world, but it's also able to happen internally. How do you accelerate yourself though? Two things. One is you have to be able to get rid of your baggage and the stuff holding you back. Like imagine your mind is a computer, but you have some faulty code in there from your childhood, from your bad habits, right? And you are carrying this baggage. So you're trying to run the new operating system. You're like trying to get the computer update so you can be like super fast, but you're running like software from 2015 or 1994, right? And so we got to update that computer program within you. And then the other part is you got to have a really clear goal of what is the new program that you're getting in there. So I have a separate video that explains how you can actually get the programming in, how you have levels to your mind. But the people who will win in the future, well, the ultimate goal is that everyone can win. But that's subjective. There's going to be a lot of issues with that, right? But that's my ultimate goal is I want to be able to trade places with anyone in the world, stand in their shoes and say, okay, I'd be cool switching lives with you. But that's a 300-year vision, right? That's me being a super optimist and idealist. But how do we get there is us as individuals got to be able to step up and really fulfill our utmost potential. And you do that through changing what's going on in here. Well, really, programming is in your whole body, but let's just say here, right, for simple terms, and get rid of the glitch, virus program, and then adopt this new worldview, this new ability to understand how quickly you can change and how this technology, while it's awesome, the human being, we still don't even know what the human being is capable of. I'm seeing some kids now, especially in our communities, that are raised effectively. They have really clear principles. Their parents are really intentional with them, and they're able to pick up any book and read it because they have a very specific like curriculum that they're learning from and how they're learning. These kids are going to blow Elon and them out of the water because you have people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, and all them that were apparently really smart when they were kids, and they read books like maniacs. They would read for like 5-6 hours a day when they were between age 8 and let's say age 15. They read all the sci-fi. They read all the world history. They read everything about economics and business. So by the time they're an adult, they can see the world very clearly because they have the vocabulary. They have the understanding of how to run business, how to see the future. Now, we have kids in our community that are at that level where they're able to pick up those books, but they're doing it like 4 or 5 years younger than Bill Gates and Elon and these guys. Yet, these kids will work together and they don't have all the trauma. Like you look at Elon, that kid was getting beat up all the time when he was a kid. His dad was like this crazy narcissist guy. I mean, I've read the books. I don't know how true that is, but it seems like it's true. And so you had Elon also had a lot of baggage, right? And I think that's part of the reason that drives him to be the richest man in the world because he has something to prove. And I'm not talking smack on Elon. I think he's doing what he sees is best for humanity, but there's going to be a lot of unintentional side effects from that. And when we're all looking at like a handful of leaders in the world, that's where we run into issues. Everybody should be able to be a self-leader so we could be equals to that. That's really what I'm here to push. That's what I'm here making these videos about, is that great acceleration. And you have Moore's Law and all these factors pushing into technology, going to a whole nother level in the next few years for us to be ready for that so we can work with it and we can make sure we thrive and that our kids thrive. Okay. So if you resonate with this stuff, reach out because a mastermind group. We have local meetups if you're near me. My wife and I also do the homesteading stuff because I need to know how the original technology works, which is nature, right? How do you actually plant seeds and reap a bountiful harvest? How do you build a food forest? How do you have more than enough food so you never have to worry about food? And you can have so much that you could share with your neighbors. And in the event of some sort of collapse or, the grid goes down or whatever, I'm prepared for that. But it's not just okay if I'm prepared and my wife is prepared and a couple of our friends are. It's like, no, we need our communities to be robust so we can really grow and thrive. But that all comes back to the education, and it's a real education, not just what you learned in school or didn't learn. It's the ability to pick up anything and learn it, build a bridge from where you are to where you want to be, but also to be able to unlearn all the bullshit patterns, unlearn the limiting beliefs. And again, if you like this kind of stuff, we should connect and you should watch my other videos because we've been doing this for a while now and it's getting really big and I'm excited for it. And I want you to also benefit from that. So it's like a wave, right? And we can ride the wave and then we can take that wave to then the next wave and then the next wave. And that's my vision for the future.